Naughty Dog's The Last of Us Part 2 is out next year, and despite the delay to May 29th, 2020, we're still incredibly hyped to see how the story pans out. Given the range of trailers released thus far, there have been more questions than answers. So let's take a look at a few crazy, and perhaps not so crazy, theories about the story that might be true. Joel is dead. One of the more popular theories floating around is that Joel isn't really alive. In the latest trailer, where Ellie investigates a strange house, she somehow bears witness to Joel's death. As a result, her mission is to actually avenge Joel. What we see in the trailer is a manifestation of Ellie's broken psyche, which isn't too far-fetched when you consider all of the other trauma she's been through. This would give some context to Joel appearing in the very first trailer, seemingly out of nowhere, as Ellie proclaims she's going to kill them all. But this theory is being looked at simply because of the alternative. DINA dies. That being pretty much what the last trailer showcased. As DINA and Ellie embark outside their community, fighting off bad weather and infected foes, something happens. Ellie investigates a strange house, heads to the basement, and sees DINA being murdered. It's not made clear who is being murdered, if there is a murder at all. Either way, this incident spurs Ellie's revenge as she looks to take down those involved. While the trailer certainly makes this theory the most plausible, it's doubted for a reason. It feels like well-worn territory. Granted, you could say that about a number of things from the first game, and it all comes down to delivery, but maybe there's a twist. Then again, maybe not. Others immune to cordyceps. Another interesting theory concerns the cult directly. While we don't know who they are, their purpose could be hunting those immune to cordyceps virus. Basically, Ellie has always been on their radar, though this also assumes that there are other people immune to the virus. Whatever the case may be, we're skeptical as to how Ellie, clearly cornered in the last trailer, managed to survive if she's marked for death by the cult. Fireflies fall, cult rises. Why didn't this cult, which seems to have been around before the events of the sequel, play a big part in the first game? In theory, it's because of the Fireflies. Basically, the Fireflies have been keeping the cult in check. But when Joel went on a murdering spree in their main base, killing the Queen Firefly Marlene as well, the vacuum allowed the cult to conduct their business more openly and aggressively. It would certainly give more consequence to Joel's actions and tie back to the first game in interesting ways, with Ellie potentially blaming Joel for allowing this all to happen. Anna sacrificed herself to save Ellie. Let's go a bit further back though. In the second trailer for the game, we saw a young woman, presumed to be Ellie's mother, Anna, being hanged by the cult for her actions. This goes back to the point about the cult hunting those immune to the cordyceps virus, though we've seen hints, particularly from the Last of Us American Daughters poster, that this might not be the case. Though Anna was freed, there's the assumption that eventually the cult would catch up several months down the line, leading to her sacrificing herself to ensure Ellie's survival. Anna's perspective. Speaking of which, if Anna was indeed the woman in the trailer and is carrying Ellie to term, then it's possible that The Last of Us Part 2 will alternate between her perspective and Ellie's. We'll see how Ellie is carried to term, what Anna has done to survive, and probably learn more about the cult. After all, why just have a cutscene with Anna surviving against the cult, aside from having a trailer for a trailer's sake? Wouldn't it make more sense to follow her journey, if just for a bit? Anna was a Firefly. Of course, there's another theory that goes even further when it comes to Anna, and another reason the cult may be hunting her. She was part of the Fireflies, which is assumed to have repressed the cult for years. Furthermore, she didn't really die. Instead, following Ellie's birth, she went into hiding and essentially disappeared from everyone's radar for several years. Everyone, that is, except for Marlene. So when Joel kills Marlene, word eventually reaches Anna, who takes it upon herself to hunt down Joel and avenge Marlene. Whether this leads to her becoming entwined with Ellie would have to depend on Joel's overall status. Anna possibly not appearing. While many assume that Ellie's mother Anna was the woman in the second trailer, it isn't a lock. Some speculate that this is Ellie herself but grown, which doesn't explain how her tattoos are gone. Others believe this may be a red herring, that this woman has something to do with the cult and overall plot, but isn't directly related to Ellie. Whatever the case may be, her appearance has some significance, however remote that may currently appear to be. Joel's perspective. If we're talking about multiple playable characters, there's a neat theory about Joel. Essentially, he's alive and in pursuit of Ellie as she seeks revenge. However, because of this, he sees firsthand just how many people she's killed and the consequences of her actions. We know the two eventually reconnect, which could lead to Joel seeing Ellie committing murder in front of him and affecting his perception. But how will that play into the overall ending? Ellie dies in the end. Here's an interesting kicker. The Last of Us Part 2 potentially has multiple endings, and depending on the choices that Ellie makes, she could end up dying. The theme of hate holds even more meaning here. How far could Ellie really go without being consumed by her hatred? It would be an interesting mirror to the first game's ending. Joel, out of love for Ellie and fear for her survival, committed mass murder with presumably heavy consequences. Does it make sense that Ellie carrying out her quest of hatred would end with some terrible consequences, even if it potentially means her death? We'll have to wait and find out. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from GamingBolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.